Now let's continue. Mortimer J. Adler. Who's this guy? Mortimer J. Adler was an American philosopher, educator, and encyclopedist. And he was a professor at Columbia University. And if you don't know what Columbia University is, it's one of the most prestigious Ivy League universities in the United States. And this university is located in New York City, and it's actually where Warren Buffett, a billionaire and one of the richest persons alive, graduated. And it's also where most of the founding fathers of America, I think at least 5 of them, went to Columbia University, as well as modern presidents like Barack Obama. So it's a very prestigious university, and prestige means that it's very high valued and very rare, because the knowledge it provides is of very high quality. So if Mortimer J. Adler is teaching at Columbia University, it means that what he's teaching is very high value. The knowledge that he's teaching is of very high quality. And he is also the author of the book called How to Read the Book, The Art of Getting a Liberal Education, right? And it's funny that you have a book called How to Read the Book. And it brings us back to the title of this video of How to Read the Book. And what it does, it has a goal of giving you the ability to learn anything, which is what I want to give you. My mission is to provide knowledge for a brighter tomorrow. And that means turning each and every one of you into people that are able to educate themselves through self-education without being dependent on others. And in the book, How to Read the Book, Mortimer talks about the 4 dimensions of reading. And what are these 4 dimensions of reading? The first dimension of reading is elementary reading. And as you might think about it, elementary refers to elementary school, kindergarten, and when you were just learning the elements of life, for example. And this type of reading is the most basic level of reading. After elementary reading, you have inspectional reading. And inspectional reading is the dimension of reading that we're going to focus most about in this video and in the next few videos. After inspectional reading, you can already understand, before we go to the next one, from the name inspectional reading, you can already understand that it's something with inspecting, right? Inspectors, detectives, it's where you gain knowledge through the first time you look at it or you go through it. After inspectional reading, we have analytical reading. And analytical reading is more complex than inspectional reading. This time you're analyzing with more focus instead of just inspecting fast. And the 4th dimension of reading is called syntopical reading. Syntopical reading is the final dimension of reading. And as you can understand from the 4 levels of reading, you naturally have to go through all of them because they build on top of each other. Inspectional reading builds on top of elementary reading, analytical reading builds on top of inspectional reading, and syntopical reading builds on top of analytical reading. So let's start out first with what is elementary reading. Elementary reading is the most basic form of reading. And what's interesting is that most people today, arguably 99% or 99.9% of people today, the type of reading that they do is elementary reading. And elementary reading, as the most basic type of reading, is concerned with what the words say and what does a sentence say. So it's the direct meaning of the symbols that humans do through language. If it says a cat walked over a park, when you read a cat, you visualize the cat. Walk, you visualize walking. A park, you visualize a park. Right? It's just what the words mean. So it's where you just read a book and you just read what the words say. That's elementary reading. And now, what is inspectional reading? Inspectional reading builds on top of elementary reading, and it goes further than just understanding what the words say and what the sentences say. Inspectional reading is concerned with what the book is about, what is the structure of the book, and what are the parts of the book. So you gain more understanding through inspectional reading. And you have different types of books. You have romance books, you have science fiction books, you have mathematical textbooks, you have philosophy books, you have books of law, you have books of politics, and there are many different types of books. So inspectional reading is concerned with understanding what type of book this is. And it gives you the tools and the frameworks to find that out, that information. And inspectional reading has two main parts. The first part is skimming or pre-reading, and the second part is superficial reading. So, what are those? Systemic skimming or pre-reading a book, it means that you go through the book very fast to quickly find out what's it about, what type of knowledge it can provide, so you can decide if it's a book that you want to read or not. And the first part, systemic skimming or pre-reading, is done through the following steps. The first step, so the first part that we have of inspectional reading. The first part that we have is where we have to look at the following parts. We have to look at the cover of the book, right? We have the book as an object. We take it and we first look at it. And when you look at the cover, you analyze. What does it say? What words are written? Who is the author? Who wrote this book? Who is the person who wrote this book? Right from that, you can find out pretty much anything you want to know. And on top of that, many books today have pictures on the cover of the book as well. So with the picture, you can also extract more information that you can then associate with the book. So you see the title of the book, Fairy Tale About Romance. From that, you already know what the book entitles, but there's still a chance that it could be a code or it could be a philosophy, and the book has nothing to do with the title, which can be possible. And the author of the book is very interesting to look at because today with the internet or with the resources you have available, you can very quickly find out who the author was. So let's say I'm reading a book, How to Read the Book, Mortimer Adler. The book that I read in order to learn this information. I look him up on Google, Mortimer J. Adler, and it quickly comes up who he was. American philosopher, educator, encyclopedist, so I already know that the works he wrote, is about educating, giving knowledge forward, philosophy, understanding ideas and concepts, and encyclopedia, organizing knowledge as a whole. After the cover, you can also look at the back cover. The back cover of the book also contains valuable information. Most books on the back cover have a summary of what the book was about already. So you turn the book and you see what the book is about. And if it's not something you like, you can very quickly save up your time so you don't need to read the book. After the back cover, you also have the dust jacket. And the first time I read this word, I was immediately like, what? Dust jacket? What does that mean? Is that like something I put on and it has dust on it? But it's actually not what I thought. It's actually when you have a book and you have a protective paper around it that you can then take the book out. It's the jacket around the book made to protect the book from dust. So that's where the word dust jacket comes from. And the dust jacket of books can also provide you with valuable information. For instance, you also have acknowledgements of other authors and people that have read the book before release, telling their opinions about the book. Most New York Times bestsellers have dust jackets that give information about the book, so you can read the reviews from people that have read the book and find out if it's a book that you want to read or not. After you have gone through these, you then can go to the preface of the book. I need to get a better pen. You cannot see clearly what I'm writing. Preface and the title. So the title of the book, you can read it and analyze it. And the preface, also the introduction of the book, is 1 or 2 pages, and if you read it, it gives you a lot of information about the book. What's it about? What does the book go through? What's the goal of the author? What's the theme of the book? So this is the new pen, and it's better, and you can see the writing more clearly. Okay? So after you have read this, you've already gotten lots of information from the book. The second thing that you have to look at is the table of contents of the book. And the table of contents is that big list of all the chapters in the book. So when you open it, you go through the first few pages and you immediately see something with lots of lines. And it's the structure of the entire book, how it's organized, what the parts of it are. And it's actually interesting that most people don't even go through the table of contents when they can provide you so much value and save you so much time. If you take 1 or 2 minutes reading the table of contents, you can immediately gather the structure of how the book is organized. Just yesterday, before I was going to sleep, I read the start of 2 books. The first one was the biology book, and the second one was the ecology book. And I didn't read the entire books, but I just read the title and the table of contents, and I immediately got a lot of information from it that I can now use to decide that I want to read the book, which I'm going to do. After you've read the table of contents, you understand the structure of the book. And with the structure of the book, you can create a roadmap a map or a roadmap which you then can use to go to the areas that you want to go. Let's say you're interested about a particular subject in biology. Let's say it's cell theory. You want to understand how cells work. And you have a biology book, very extensive and comprehensive. You can just read the table of contents, find out when it starts talking about cell theory, go to that page, that chapter, and you have saved up so much time by not going through the other useless chapters because you're not requiring or you don't want the knowledge that they provide. You only want to learn about cell theory. So use the table of contents to find the structure of the book so you can then create a map and roadmap about where everything is located, and based on this you can go to what you want to learn, the chapters that will give you the most value. You can also go through the index, and the index is mostly at the end, and it tells you the words it uses and the authors it mentions. So with the index you can also find out more information about the book, what subjects it goes through and what keywords it uses. And after doing all of these, you can then decide if you want to read the book. And if it happens to be a book that you're not interested in, then you just saved yourself a lot of time, right? If it's a book that you want to read, you now know that you want to read the book. So you can invest your time to gain value out of the book, to gain knowledge. But this part of inspectional reading is very important because just from this, you can do this in just 5 minutes. And you've saved yourself so much time than going through the introduction and trying to find out something in the book that may be of value to you. So just from this, 5 minutes to most 1 hour. Not sure how you can use an hour going through this, but at most 1 hour. But just a few minutes it should be enough for you to decide if you want to read the book or not. And with this, you can also expand on it even more. So, after you have decided to read the book, you then can do more steps in inspectional reading. The next things that you have to do is find out the pivotal chapters in the book. So you find out the pivotal chapters in the book about its argument or its theme. And what does pivotal mean? Pivotal just means important or foundational chapters, where if you remove them, the whole structure falls apart. So in every book there are more chapters that are more important than the others to the book's argument or theme, the message that the author wants to bring forth. There are specific chapters in the book that provide more value and more information than all the other ones. And these are the important chapters in the book. So you go through the table of contents and you want to find out what the pivotal chapters are. And in order to find them, you have to go through the pages. So you find this chapter about, let's say you're reading a physics textbook, and it's about the force and motion. So you go to that chapter, force and motion, to get a quick overview of what it goes through, and then you turn the few pages. You turn the pages and you read a paragraph or two. So you read a paragraph or two when you go through the pages. And you can then gain more information about the chapter, what the chapter goes through. And after you do this, you then can read the opening and closing statements of each chapter. So just by reading the opening statements of a chapter, also the introduction in many books, the author tells you what the chapter goes through and what its goals are. So you're reading the physics textbook, you go through the chapter, you go to the chapter of force and motion, you turn the pages, find it, and then you read a paragraph or two, the opening paragraph of the chapter, and then you just turn the pages. If you find something interesting, you stop, take a brief look, and then you continue until you go to the end of the chapter and you read through the last paragraphs, the opening at first and then the closing statements. Just from this information you can already gain insane amount of knowledge in a very short period of time. Because most authors, they cannot resist the urge of giving you a summary at the end, concluding everything. So instead of using a lot of time going through the chapter, you can just read the opening statements, the closing statements, and you've already gotten a lot of information in a short period of time. And this process, it now makes sense. I said that the previous process where you go through the book, cover, the back cover, the dust jacket, and the table of contents and the index, where you could go through at most 1 hour, but it's wrong. You don't go through it in most 1 hour. It should only take you a minimum of less than 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes is more. But this part, it can take you more time. This part can also be done in a few minutes. But it's at most 1 hour. And just from these few minutes, and at most 1 hour, you have already gained a lot of information. And after you have done this, you have successfully performed the first part of inspectional reading, which is systematic skimming or pre-reading a book. And after you have done this, you then go through the second part. It's called superficial reading. So you have inspectional reading, and inspectional reading has two parts. The first part, systematic skimming or pre-reading a book, and then the second part is superficial reading. And what does superficial reading mean? Superficial, it just means the surface. If you have a box that has contents inside and you look at it superficially, you just look at the outside. You don't care about the inner contents. So it's what you get at first glance, at the first look, the first time you go through it. And the way you perform superficial reading is you read through the book. You just read through the book. So at the first part where you do systematic skimming or pre-reading, you want to quickly find out what the book is about and whether you want to read it or not. You decide that you want to read a book. It's interesting and it can give you a lot of value. You go through some of the pivotal chapters, the most important information, read the opening and closing statements, and after that, only using a few minutes, at most 1 hour, you already know the structure of the book and how it's organized. What you then do is start from the first chapter, the introduction, and you read through the book, right? And it's important that you read through the book without stopping. Right? So, without stopping. And what does this mean? Without stopping is that you're in a focused environment where people cannot distract you, and you can quickly go through the book very fast.